days because you're 480 pounds. You realize something's going to have to give or your life is going to end. This is the Venture Forward. Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon from wherever you are, and this is the Venture Forward. I'm John Venturini, and I'm a recovering addict of overeating and obesity, alcoholism, and gambling. I have fought this story for a very long time, and at some point, I wanted to tell this story. Tonight is the night. I have been dealing with obesity for most of my adult life. And as I've told many others, it really is my gateway addiction. Without this addiction, there wasn't any others that kind of were compounding on top of each other. And I'll tell that entire story in a few minutes here. But I wanted to start off by really expressing my thanks last week. To a gentleman by the name of Merck. He did a phenomenal job on this very first episode of the Venture Forward. It was the sort of thing that you have stories like that you gravitate around, and you seek support and solace in these communities. And it doesn't matter what sort of addiction it is, what sort of situation it is. But at the end of the day, we all do rally together. We do recover better together. We do stream together in the case of some of us. Without that, we don't have any mechanism to tell this story. So I wanted to thank Merck for joining me on the premiere last Thursday. And I really hope that the point I make tonight really sheds a light on how addicting overeating and obesity is. And it affects so many people, not only in this country, but in the world. But before I do that, I wanted to go to the comments real quick, because I thought I heard the comment bell go off, and maybe it didn't, and that's okay. As I suspect there might be a problem with Restream or YouTube or Facebook, but I will go ahead and continue with this because, quite frankly, it's a story that needs to be told. And you know, as soon as I said that, there is a comment from Merck. Merck, pleasure to meet you this evening. Pleasure to see you. I was glad to have you on the show last week. And you're phenomenal, and thank you for being here tonight. Obesity and being overweight and the whole idea of just overeating is something that is about as Americana as apple pie. And if you think about it, because that is a expression that is near and dear to the vernacular, we know that we like to consume food. And we look at a holiday like Thanksgiving, which is coming up in just mere weeks now, And we gravitate around that holiday to get together as a family or as friends to consume mass amounts of food. So it's part of our culture. It's part of our mindset. And not only the American or North American mindset, but around the world. For me, it's something I've been dealing with my entire life. You're talking to somebody that when I was in grade school, when I was in middle school, high school, college, I've always been a bit obese. And when I say a bit, I mean very. It was a sort of situation where I got into in 7th grade, I was 200 pounds. When I got into 8th grade, I was 300 pounds. And all throughout high school, I was a very big kid. That continued through college, that continued into my 20s. And I'll talk about that sort of timeline in a few minutes because, like I said, this is something I've been battling for a very, very long time. A couple more comments have come in. Hi, Sarah. How are you? It was great to have you on the VF Talks on Friday. You say, sure is. And a lot of obese kids are actually malnourished, which is crazy when you think about it. But it is something that is very much a real fact. If you do any sort of blood test, if a kid goes for an annual physical, it is shocking what some of those tests will come back with and how basically deplete of certain nutrients they are. So yes, they may be obese, but that doesn't mean that they don't fully have the nutrients they need to live a healthy life. Thank you for raising that, Sarah. Sammy, how are you? Hope all is well over by you. Sarah continues to say, that must have been rough socially as an adolescent. Sarah? Absolutely. And especially when you go through the years like middle school and high school, you're talking in the ages of 13 to 17, 18. And I'm dealing with all this weight. And absolutely, can I say I was bullied? You bet I was. Without question I was. And, the thing is, that bullying continues well into our adulthood. So the thing is, as I keep on going to that, there comes a point where we say that we've had enough of this and we must make a valid sort of attempt to do better. And then we realize that many of the reasons why we're obese, why we gravitated to food, is not necessarily the diet, not necessarily the exercise, but what's up here. That there are things going on upstairs that haven't been right for a very long time. Either we're not talking about these things or we're not very transparent about our inner beliefs and our fears and our strengths and whatnot. And it just basically crescendos down a hill. It is very much the mind. As I was telling someone a while back, it goes mind, diet, exercise. The mind must be treated first. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Couple more comments. Callie, how are you? It's good to see you. Glad you finally made it. Very much so. Sarah also says, also family dynamics. Yes, and I didn't really weigh in much on that in this presentation, but I'll talk to it real quickly. My family's been obese. My mom and my dad were obese. My dad died of a fatal heart attack. My mom is dealing with diabetes right now and is obese herself. So the family genetics doesn't wane far from this at all. And the thing is, we have those sort of dynamic that goes back to that sort of mindset, that sort of way of thinking that, hey, this is my way of life. This is what we did as kids and we grow up. But the thing is, it's not the right way to go about things, right? Especially as I alluded to in the open, I was at such a weight where I couldn't walk more than 5 or 10 feet without huffing and puffing. It was really something that was very limiting, especially when you have a job that really requires you to travel cross country. if I'm not walking more than 10 feet without needing to stop and get a breather, and I'm sweating on a January day, that's not good. That's not good at all. Couple more comments. Sean, good to see you tonight. You say, what up, John? What up, Sean? Hope you're doing well. Des, good evening. Good morning for you. Hope you're doing well. So let's talk about this, because over time, this really became something where this is my reality. This is my reality, and if I don't fix it now, it's going to kill me, especially given the fact that I've dropped this weight 3 times. Everybody talks about the fact that they have gone on a diet to lose massive amounts of weight, whether it be 50, 100, 150 pounds. I've lost over 200 pounds 3 times. Let's talk about that. Because quite frankly, it's because of that sort of zigzag that I've gone through that it is really a miracle that I'm still alive. And when we start going through the numbers of how much obesity and overweight people basically attract, or basically are affected, rather, in this country and around the world, it is very jaw-dropping to know how much this is common and very much around everybody, friends, family, colleagues, what have you. So let me cut over to my slide deck and talk about this. So when I say I've lost a massive amount of weight, I was 480 pounds in January of 2019. This was my world. This was my world. I was going to company functions. I had my badge ID redone because we were doing a badge identification. They were redoing all the badges, and I had basically taken the worst picture of my entire life. And the picture on the left was just me relaxing at a store somewhere. There was nothing relaxing about where my life was. Far from it. Every day I was consuming more and more, and I was feeling more and more pain. Did I have sleep apnea? You're darn straight I did. Did I have hard times just even going from point A to point B with minimal distance as humanly possible? You're darn straight that's the case. So something had to happen. This was a zigzag. So I said I was up and down 3 times in the last 20 years. I lost the weight in 2002. Gone to the gym. Worked out. So I saw a personal trainer. I was really developing a body. And over time, that weight came back because I lost the mental focus on what it is to be skinny. What it is to be in shape. So throughout the 2000s, that weight came back. When I got to 2010, that light bulb went off again. Had to lose the weight. So I went back to the gym. Spun twice a day. Saw a trainer. Went from 440 all the way down to 245 back in 2010, 2011. But that weight came back. And that came back in the 2010s. When we got to 2019, I was 480 pounds. 480. Biggest weight I ever was. I was at the point where I couldn't do much of anything. Could I fit in an airplane seat? No. Did I have to use a double or a triple seatbelt? Darn straight I did. Could I sit in a diner booth? Nuh-uh. Wasn't happening. No way. That was it for me. I had to do something to fix this. I realized it was a mental situation. If I don't fix it now, it will end me. I truly, honest to God, believe that. Now, I'm healthy. I weigh 205 pounds. I lost 275 pounds in 22 months. And at this point in time now, I feel like I have a better handle on this. I know why things happen the way they did. I know why my mind wasn't in a good place. I have a better relationship with all of these things. And I got rid of the roadblocks that held me back. Something I will talk about more in the upcoming weeks. Because this venture forward is a lot more than the overweight and obesity. It is things like alcoholism. It are things like gambling. It are things like codependency. We will discuss all of that. But first and foremost, my weight, my health, was mission number one. This is what that line chart looks like right now. 480 all the way down to 205. 25 to go. I lost 275 pounds in 88 weeks. Those lines are dramatic lines to look at. That top line is a body mass index of 60. That red line is 50. That orange line is 40. The yellow line is 30. The definition of obesity. And the green line is 25. I haven't been this skinny in a very long time, and I am very thankful for that. I'm thankful and blessed for that. I'm also thankful and blessed for you. I have comments, and let's get to them. Of course, me doing that. First technical snafu, if you are scoring at home. Callie says, I love the way you go back to the comments. I really seek support in all of you and all of this, because quite frankly, without that, it helps. You help my story, because I know how important the story is. So thank you for telling me that, Callie. I appreciate that. Sarah says, really glad you're still alive. Thank you, Sarah. I'm really glad, and I'm really blessed and thankful to meet people like you and Callie and Sammy and Matt and all of you. And quite frankly, this is what life is about. The fact that we can help tell our story and help communicate to people, help people with their problems or entertain them or whatever. This is so important. Thank you, Sammy. I appreciate that. So are you, Sammy. Without question, you're a great person. It's the best way I can call it, Callie. It's wow. Just sit here, and some mornings I wake up and I can't believe what shape I'm in now, knowing where I was, and all I could say, Callie, is wow. Matt, how are you? Thank you for joining back on the VF Talks on Friday. I'm glad to see you tonight. Hope you're doing well. Sean says, extreme results take extreme actions. You have shown so much discipline in tackling multiple addictions. Inspired by me. Inspired by you, John. I'm inspired by you too, Sean. The fact that you are working those steps. You are taking that better path forward for yourself. The fact that we do recover better together is important. We can't forget that. That's right. All the cool kids are here. 88 weeks. 88 weeks. And I know there are a few more weeks in this. I still have 25 to go. The key is, though, when I get to my goal weight, it's going to be keeping this off. And I know I could keep it off now. That's the key. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Jane, good to see you. Glad you're here. How you doing? Thank you, Sammy. So are you. I really enjoy your streams a lot. Thank you, Callie. Sammy, that's a good point. I'm at the point right now where I've collected a lot of my journal writings and I've put it back basically into book form, and my goal is to finish that book really soon. I think this live stream was kind of the first step in that. The book is close to being done. So there is a lot more of this story to talk about. Thank you, Jax. I notice you have a dry wet as well, and I'm very appreciative of that. Matt's asking, is the show on YouTube as well, or is it only Facebook? Well, if Restream is working correctly, it should be on both, but knowing how things are these days, and what is Mercury in retrograde or something, maybe it's on one and not the other, but as they say in TV, check your local listings. Got that comment back up there. Sammy says, just my YouTube chat is disabled. Yeah, I figured something so much, and I'll take a look at that in time for part 2 of this on Thursday. This is a dream, Jane. This absolutely is a dream. Pinch me. Am I dreaming? Because the fact is, where I am now, all the steps that have been made, I realize I am where I am, and I am sure the same is true for you, Jane. Same thing for Merck and everybody that's in this room. It's true for everybody. Des, you're a part of my American family. I love you. I love you too, Des. I love you very much. I love all of you. You guys are phenomenal, and I'm really glad you're here tonight. Thank you, Callie. Matt says, simply put, John kicks butt. He knows what he wants, and he makes it happen, also known as kicking butt. When I can, I can. Sometimes it just doesn't work as much. Jane says, seriously, you inspire me so much. Let's, and Jane, you absolutely inspire me too. All of you do. Let's talk more about this whole weight loss, because quite frankly, this is something where I still can't believe in talking about it. And if I start stuttering and getting, I apologize in advance, but let's go back there for a second. So many people know that I have a board. I have a board in my office. I call it the big board. It is a giant 5-foot by 6-foot board that I keep work notes on there, but I also keep my physical progress up there. So on this board, I have one tally mark for every pound I've lost, 275 of those marks. And I also have a counter of the number of days I've been on this diet, the number of days I've been sober, and the number of days I haven't been gambling. 612 days on this diet, 509 days sober, 191 days not gambling. If there's anything that makes me forget where I am, because, some days will kick you in the shins, I just look at that board over there. That's all I need to know. I feel a lot better too. I could sleep at night. I'm not snoring half to death, literally. I'm just in a better place right now. So let's talk about obesity. Obesity is a sort of thing where it is a worldwide problem. As Des will talk to you from Australia, as many people will talk to you around the world, it is something that we are all dealing with this as the Earth citizens, as people of this world. Obesity has tripled since 1975. Let's have that sink in for a second. The last 45 years, the obesity rate, the obesity number has tripled. 4 years ago, 2016, over nearly 2 billion adults 18 years and older were overweight. Of these, 650 million were obese. So that works out to being 39% of adults 18 and up were overweight and 13% were obese. And I don't necessarily want to use the term for reasons of, reasons, but because of a certain thing that's going on this year, I can guarantee you that those numbers change because of the health effects of that. And we could talk about that in a little while. Most of the world's population live in countries where overweight and obesity kill more people than being underweight. And if we talk about the small kids, our toddlers, our babies, 38 million children under the age of 5 were overweight or obese in 2019. That was last year. Over 340 million children and adolescents aged 5 to 19 were overweight or obese in 2016. All these numbers are from the World Health Organization. Think about that for a second. This is something that affects many people. If you look at a group of 10, there's a chance that 2 can be considered obese, 4 or 5 of them are considered overweight. And the reason why I'm a little bit upper than the numbers that are on the slide, it's because over time, in the last 4 or 5 years, I seriously suspect, as many studies will tell you, those numbers have increased. Let's go to the comments real quick. If I could find my mouse, that'd be even better. Sarah asks, everywhere or just developed countries? Is basically a developed and basically a global sort of survey, as I saw from the World Health Organization. The website is on the slide. I doubt that the numbers are probably somewhat indexed for third world countries, but I think there was some sort of factor in calculating those. And Callie said, great question. Let's continue. So if we talk about obesity and overall health, there are over 2.8 million hospital stays every year in the United States. This is an 8-year-old statistic, so these numbers might have grown a bit for obesity as a cause or contributing factor. Approximately 300,000 people die from obesity in America every year. And the thing is, again, that is 16 years old. And I'm sure that number has grown a bit too. Let's talk about what we deal with when someone's obese. Your quality of life is hindered. Your way of life is seriously in a decrepit sort of place. And you're dealing with serious health consequences like heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, cancer, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, joint problems, sleep apnea. Bringing this local for a second. My dad, he died of a fatal heart attack. It was his 4th back in 2003. He was a gentleman that had heart disease, and it ended up killing him. My mom is a type 2 diabetic and is also obese. So if you think about where obesity and that sort of poor health, poor cardiovascular health comes from, it was mentioned earlier in this episode, yeah, it does tie back to your family. It does tie back to your familial roots. That must be taken into consideration greatly. Of course, I'm clicking things left and right over here. So let's talk about how I did this. We talk about a dietary tool set. These are the sort of things that I have gravitated to for very long. I think ever since 2002, I've been using some form of this where I was calculating the basal metabolism rate, the BMR, either by Harris Benedict or Mifflin St. Jean, and also understanding that this is basically my BMR, and if I wanted to lose weight, more or less, you take 500 calories off of that number, and that's equal to a pound, and so on and so forth. Now, granted, the way people work, it may be slightly different, but it's been a rule of thumb that's been around for about 150 years. And I know for a fact it works with me, and I know it works for many. There are many tools in the marketplace that use that sort of logic. Lose It is the one I use. That's why there's a picture of its front page on the slide. And it has a smartphone tablet application, but there are other ones out there. There's MyFitnessPal, there's Fat Secret, there's Chronometer. And I just wanted to make a quick note. The Venture Forward is not sponsored by Lose It. It is just a thing that I use, and I figure in sharing what has helped me over time, I'd share that with you. That LoseIt.com surely come in handy for me. A couple of other slides real quick, or a couple comments. I need a second screen for Ecamm, one for my slides, yeah. Sarah, you're absolutely right. It is pretty much an expensive problem. Not from a sense of, well, not only our own sort of economics, but the economics of countries and whatnot. It definitely conforms to other things, whether it's a question of socialized medicine or the sort of healthcare paradigm that we have in our country. It costs money without question. Sarah goes on to say, it's propelled by particular industries too. Yeah, big time. Anyone has a vested interest in this, you know it's being skewed one direction or another. So the thing is, we must remain very, very cognizant of this. You talk to people about how they lose weight. You talk about the things that they do in order to get themselves healthy. Well, many people will come to you and say, the more natural the food that you eat, the more from the earth or from whatever the food that you eat, and doesn't have 14 letter ingredients, and it doesn't have much processed sugar to it, the better off they are, not only from one's health, but also from one's maintenance of health, losing weight, etc. It's something we must keep in mind. A lot of the food that we eat still comes from overly processed sources. It's that old adage about you go into the supermarket, you tell anyone that who is trying to basically eat clean to eat on the perimeter of the supermarket. Produce, meats, fish, that sort of thing. You go up and down the aisles, chances are the ingredient list becomes longer than long. So it's something that you have to remain very, very aware of. Something that I've grown to know very much over the last 43 years, let alone the last 22 months of this round, and the last 20 years pretty much of my adulthood. Let's go back to the slides. So we talk about the dietary tool set, but there are other factors at play in the sense that there is one final note I want to keep, in the sense that there is value to services such as Weight Watchers, Noom, or others, right? It's not really the sort of advice I'm giving tonight. It's not a one-size-fits-all sort of advice. It's something where whatever works for you is going to work for you. And sometimes you do have to kick the tires on many different processes to figure out what does. One method may not be the best method for any particular person. Another point, exercise is just as pivotal to diet, but it is the mind first, the diet second, and exercise third. When you're 480 pounds, it is very hard to start any sort of dietary or exercise program, but you sure as heck could start working on the diet once and only if you have the mind figured out and you know exactly why you're doing what you're doing. The services mentioned before provide dietary assistance, as well as many different applications and wellness providers. Lose It has a very good exercise regime in there as far as how many calories are burnt by a certain exercise. Again, one size doesn't fit all, and you're going to do the thing that works for you. And, of course, my obligatory comment here, always consult your doctor, nutritionist, or dietitian before embarking upon any sort of diet. Because at the end of the day, these are people that are very well educated, have doctorates in this area, and are keeping track of how this science is changing very much over the last few years. So always go to one of those people, nutritionist, dietitian, etc., for that best kept advice before you do any sort of large scale diet where you're looking to lose 3 digits. You know, again, you want to come from a very, very trusted place. The other thing I'll say before I go to the next slide is be aware of your food sensitivities. Be aware of your food allergies. If you're allergic to cheese, if you're allergic to honey, if you're allergic to this, it's best to know that now. Because, quite frankly, that could be creating some sort of adverse effect as far as the food intake that you have. So you have to keep those sort of things in mind. Don't only look at it from a straight, this is my diet, this is how I'm going to lose it. This is also what affects me. And if you're really taking that step forward, you take a better sort of demand on your life. You see your doctor more often, once a year at least. I know in my case, it's an annual sort of thing. So it is really based on the sort of investment that you make in yourself, because your chief investment should begin with yourself, right? Not only from the sake of my diet, but in any sort of stretch of this, right? My mental health, my sort of mental health, and my physical health, and all of that, right? I have to have a better understanding of that. A couple more comments here. I wish tacos grew on trees. Yeah, I wish tacos grew on trees as well. But then there's always this sort of thing where you could take big leaf lettuce and put taco meat in there, but we could talk about that later. It's fine. Mark says, now you're talking. Sarah asks me, how far am I from the Lancaster's Farmers Market? About 30 minutes. 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes, not far away. And I try to get there once a month, once every other month. I'm very privileged that I live in PA, because there are a lot of places around here that are farms, that are CSAs, that are farmers markets, that have really, really become something where I can go to get healthy food, to get food that is, farm to table, as they say in the restaurant business. Literally. It's important. And understanding where your food's coming from, a much better idea for sure. Matt continues to say, my co-host, Brenda, had a bad reaction to aspartame. She stopped and many issues cleared up. Not surprised. Not surprised whatsoever. I know with me, aspartame, mass amounts of aspartame, causes memory loss with me. Causes food cravings, causes that sort of imbalance in sort of body chemistry. So to hear that, Matt, doesn't surprise me in the least. I used to drink sleeves of diet soda. I don't do that anymore. Haven't done that in about 2 years, 2.5 years. And I noticed my health got a lot better. There's something to be said about that. So good for Brenda to stop that. Let's also talk about, real quick, other things to consider. So we talk about the dietary regime. We talk about the exercise regime. It does go back to the value of the mind, right? The mind first. Journaling your mindset outside of the food you eat can prove to be very beneficial. In some cases, it helps you write books. I realized that there have been times where I haven't been open and honest and transparent to myself about what's going on with me, what's going on with the people in my life, what's going on, whatever, right? My 9 to 5, etc. Being very clear about that, being open and transparent about that is the best thing you can do. And I'll say diligence as far as that practice, as well as diet and exercise, can be just as important. You have to have the mind taken care of always, in addition to the intake, in addition to physical health, cardiovascular health. It's important. It's all connected, literally. Second thing would be meditation. So applications such as Mindspace, 10%, can help clear one's mind into a stateful place instead of stress. Whether you're doing it once a day or twice a day, I'm more of a twice a day sort of guy, where you have to have that 10, 15 minutes where you're getting your mind reset, getting yourself into a more relaxed place and not letting those sort of things affect you. Just going to the art of notification and observation instead of just dwelling upon everything. You find that doing that sort of thing helps you sleep better at night too. So there's a lot to be said about meditation. And if it's the sort of thing that you haven't done meditation before and you can barely get 3 minutes in, 3 minutes is better than no minutes. Something that's important. The last point I'll say is therapy. Therapists provide a lot of help in 3 key areas that I have gravitated to, especially in this journey of that of cognitive behavioral therapy, internal family systems, but also acceptance and commitment therapy. There are other methods out there that talk to this. There are other methods that talk about the complete health of a certain human being, but those 3 are the ones that I gravitate to, especially internal family systems. I think without that, I wouldn't have been down as far this road as I've been, and as far as I have been down on in the last 22 months. It is also so surprising, this journey, that I get tongue-tied about it too. So it's real. This is very real. And you do that in addition to all the other things we talk about, you're doing a lot better for yourself. If you need to find a place to go to, psychologytoday.com. There are a lot of other websites out there that provide telemedicine for therapy. Definitely look into that. I'm around if you ever want to talk to me offline. I definitely can help you there too. A couple more comments have come in. Most of the sugar substitutes are really bad. It's in diet soda. Yeah, it's even a question of, well, I'm not going to drink Diet Coke anymore. I'm going to drink Coke Zero. Well, I'm sorry. There's still plenty of chemicals that are, what I say, nefarious, probably, that's in Coke Zero and those sort of products. So it really becomes a more intelligent consumer of what you are eating, what you are drinking, and getting a better sense of all of that. Paul says, and good evening to you, by the way, Paul. How you doing? I should definitely stop drinking diet soda. Good reminder. Thanks. Don't mention it. Don't mention it. It's something that I am very much a believer in, very much a advocate for. And there are some people that I am really dear friends with that we've had a little bit of heated arguments about it. But I will remain to that sort of commitment in the sense that if you don't know exactly what's in the thing you're consuming, and you can't pronounce some of those chemicals or some of those ingredients, you shouldn't really have it. Just saying. It's true. Hey, Christina, how are you? Hope you're doing well this evening. Sean says, started seeing a therapist after getting out of rehab. Should have done this a long time ago. I should have done it years ago. Yes, Sean. Mental health is just as important as physical health. We have to take care of everything. So I'm really glad you're doing that, Sean. Sarah says, yes, a dear friend of mine trains IFS therapists, and lots of people do it now. It sure does. It sure does. And the thing is, there's a lot of ways of thinking about what you do in IFS as far as compartmentalization, but also the concept of firefighters and replacing one bad firefighter for a less bad firefighter and working that sort of mindset. There's a lot of great things about IFS, which I'll probably be spending an episode on sometime in the future. So stay tuned for that. Sarah also says soda in general rots your teeth too. Well, my dentist and orthodontist can attest to that. So yes, very much so. One other thing, and a quote that I think that has been very, very important as far as what I've been doing, as far as this venture forward, this whole live stream and this way of health that I have now, in the sense that true self-confidence is the courage to be open, to welcome change and new ideas, regardless of their source. Real self-confidence is not reflected in a title, an expensive suit, a fancy car, or a series of acquisitions. It is reflected in your mindset. your readiness to grow. We're all trying to grow. And it's not necessarily the thing that I'm going to go to the gym and get bulked up or whatnot. The growth starts up here. The more you learn, the more you grow. The more you grow, the more you stay young. There is nothing more gravitating than that concept. Because when we stop learning, we stop growing. And when we stop growing, well, we don't have to follow that, but you know where I'm going with that. I'm going to go off of the deck now because I believe that's the last slide. Hello again. Not usually one to go through a few slides, but I wanted to tell the story that way, so I think that was the best way to do that through my pictures and charts and graphs, so to speak, but also good pieces of information. Christina also says, great information. How did losing all that weight affect my mental health? Well, I think the thing is, 2020 is a bit of an asterisk because we're dealing with so many different things right now. I think if it was given any other year, my mental health would be 110% through the roof and in a good place. But I'll be honest with you. There are days where I'm really sad, as much as everybody is really sad. There are days where I'm hard on myself, just as much as everybody is hard on themselves. So it's a very interesting time we're living in right now. So does my 2020 feel different than 2002 and 2011? Yeah, it does. But I think the roadblocks that have become removed, I think I now understand what they are. And this weight's going to stay off because I know what exactly got me there in the first place. You have to be really, really understanding of all of that. Otherwise, there's a chance down the road that it may come back, like it did twice before, like it did in killing my father, like it's doing to my mom right now. I can't lose sight of that. And I gotta stay true to myself. I gotta do the best I can for myself and love myself and get myself healthy so I can help many other people. Like doing this live stream. Like helping out all of you. Like helping out many. This is important. We talk about that in the triangle when we talk about alcoholism and whatnot. We talk about the service arm of the triangle. It's important. We give back. We give back because, one, we learn what's affecting everybody, but two, it helps solidify our belief. It helps solidify the things we've learned. It helps us grow in helping other people grow. Matt says, a young kid, maybe 19 years old, was in the adjacent dentist room, and I overheard that he had 19 cavities due to soda. I am not surprised at all. Not surprised whatsoever. Matt goes on and says, no joke. And again, I very much not in disbelief. I could totally believe that, for sure. Sean says, this is a trying year. True. It's a trying year for all of us. How we tackle this, how we clean our side of the street, use another AA term for a second, helps us become better people. And when we have this figured out, we help others accordingly. Anyhow, on that, let's talk about Thursday real quick. We'll got part 2 of overweight and obesity on Thursday night. I will have a special guest who has lost the weight via bariatric medicine. And she's lost about 3 digits herself. Very, very incredible story. You're going to really enjoy her. I'm looking forward to having her on the Thursday night program for sure. As we are here every Tuesday and Thursday night at 6:30 Eastern Time, 3:30 Pacific. Also, on Friday nights, we have the VF Talks, which is more of a conversation program, at 5:15 Eastern, 2:15 Pacific. A couple more comments real quick. Christina says, so proud of you. Happiness is the highest form of health. Dalai Lama, great quote. And Matt says, the other side of the street. Well, taking care of your side of the street, the other side of the street. Yeah. Quite frankly, these days, we take care of the entire street, don't we? So we have to remain true to ourselves, but then we become true to everybody else without question. And on that, I will say, stay safe, stay sane, stay strong, stay sober. You're worth it. I'll see you Thursday night at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific for the next episode of The Venture Forward. Good night.